Hey, dear beloveds. Well, I'm sitting here in a slightly different position to normal today, and I've actually forgotten my stand. So if I'm going to be moving around a bit, please forgive me. I'm going to try and keep it still as much as possible. But I thought I could use this opportunity on, Gorgeous Fierce Friday, and also our day 15 of our 17-day archetype adventure to show you a little bit around my new space. Now, as some of you would know, I've been sharing a little bit about the way that my ex-husband and I have chosen to manage the transition out of our marriage into a different arrangement, and we are doing something called bird's nesting. And what that means is that in order to kind of protect our children from too much change, as we go on this journey of separation, he and I have taken up a second residence, an apartment, and we share on and off. So at the moment it's weekend on, weekend off. From next month it'll be week on, week off. And it's just such a lovely space. And I know some of you have been following the adventure of setting up our little apartment. This actually isn't the bird's nest. This is the place where we come, the adults retreat, and the bird's nest is for our baby birds, and they get to stay in the family nest, the family home, and we do the moving so that the impact on them is minimized. So I thought I'd give you a little tour if you like, because it's it's Friday. We can have a little fun together. So I'll just show you around. It's a really lovely little space that we've been setting up. It's just really beautiful. It's part of a much bigger house, and friends of mine have the main house, and this is just the living space. My bedroom's in there. I won't show you. I haven't made my bed. This is where my office will be. I haven't quite set it up yet, but we're getting there. And then beautiful windows and glass everywhere. It's just gorgeous space. So yes, I thought I'd share a little bit of this new environment. So if you notice that I am in a different space to where I normally am, you can imagine me here. And, that feels really lovely to share that, and also to share the way that Julian and I are managing our separation for anyone who is, potentially in the same situation or considering that really the idea of consciously uncoupling is not so crazy. It really is possible. Sorry, I can see that the phone is going to bobble around a little bit, but I'll do my best. So anyway, down to the business of what we're here for, which is not to give you tours of my new apartment, even though I do love it so much, but to actually share with you who day 15 of our archetypes is. And of course, we've only got 3 days left. So who we have left to spend time with is the victim, the crone, and the prostitute. And so today when I tuned in, I discovered that we have the prostitute with us, which is one of the shadow archetypes from Caroline Mace's work. And one of the, we work with the shadow archetypes in our work in the third level program, being able to understand the symbolic meaning of our lives by understanding archetypes. And so the prostitute sounds pretty intense, right? We all have the prostitute, by the way. It's not like some of us have got her and some of us don't. She is part of all of us. Like all of the 4 shadow archetypes, we're not trying to overcome these archetypes. We're simply trying to bring them into balance, if you like, so that we know that they have their shadow side and they have their light side. The light side of the prostitute is the guardian of faith. And let's find out why, because I often say in the training, no one likes to find the prostitute in their subconscious. And yet she, like all the shadow archetypes, has such good intel for us if we're willing to listen. So what is the prostitute all about? It's really what it sounds like. We are trading our faith for physical security. So we are behaving faithlessly when we're in our prostitute. We don't trust God. We believe that we have to manage. If we need something or want something to come into reality, we believe we have to control the situation because we doubt that God will enter into the situation, or we'll be like, some things are for God and then other things I have to manage on my own. So we might find that we stay in a relationship, for example, because we don't know how we would manage financially, or we're terrified to be on our own. We might stay in a job that we don't like because we don't believe that we can make a living from following our passion. We might stay in friendships or social circles which we know we've outgrown because we're afraid of other people judging us. We want to be approved of by everybody. We want to be liked by everybody. And so we act faithlessly. And instead of trusting our intuitive knowing, which is saying leave that relationship or leave that friendship or get out of that job, we stay too long because we don't trust God. We don't trust that we'll be taken care of. And it's a really intense feeling to live faithlessly, especially when your intuition is good. The amount of effort that it requires to shut down your intuition and to live faithlessly is huge. And it's often where dis-ease will come into our body because, of course, we're betraying the laws, we're betraying ourselves, and we're betraying, we're betraying the truth of what we are. So we're not willing to let God lead. We're like, oh yeah, I'm totally spiritual, except for when it comes to managing this relationship or figuring out how to make a living, and then I have to take care of things. God's not in those things. God's not interested in those things. And it's really cutting ourselves up into pieces and trying to stay in a situation that we are not meant to be in, and then wondering why everything goes awry because we're trying to, get away with kidding God. God's not confused by our actions. We are living faithlessly. We are saying one thing and doing another. And we call this incongruence. In the work of the third level, a big part of our time is about getting congruent. So if I'm in my prostitute and I stay in a situation that I know that I'm being asked by God to get out of, even if that situation isn't terrible, and this is really interesting for me to reflect on, with the ending of my marriage, my husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, is a very good man. And, to all intents and purposes, we had a really nice life. But what God was asking of me was to get out of that situation. And, it was very clear to me, and it had been clear to me for a long time, that the relationship as it was no longer appropriate for me. And it took me some time, but I do feel like I as soon as I felt confident that I wasn't making a rash decision and I trusted myself, I made the changes I needed to make, and everything has worked out so beautifully since then. But if we think we can, for all of us, kind of sit in in that space of lying to ourselves and still see the success in other parts of our life, we'll quickly realize that it's not possible. It's incongruent. So the guardian of faith is the flip side of the prostitute. And as I say, we all have the prostitute. There is somewhere in your life that you are behaving like a prostitute. And, it might be, if you have your own business, that you might accept a client that you really don't want to work with or who you can't properly serve, but you're afraid of not having enough money, so you accept that client. And usually those are the people who will be the hardest work and cause the most angst for you. So there's often subtle ways, and then sometimes some really obvious ways in which the prostitute will play out. And, one of the most powerful ways that I notice in a lot of women in particular is that need to be approved of. So we prostitute ourselves instead of acting faithfully and following our intuition and doing what we know is right. We are so wedded to the need for others to approve of us that we won't change our actions. And yeah, it's a really big deal. So let's have a look at what the prostitute would like to do with us today. I have a feeling if I don't drop my phone, it might be to just tune in for anyone who's interested and to have a look and see how the prostitute's playing out for you. So let's just close down our eyes for a little minute. Yeah, she's just really inviting any questions. So if anyone has any questions to how they might be able to work productively with their prostitute archetype and bring her into her light form, if anyone does have a situation in their life that they're confused about or they don't know how to manage, usually when we're in doubt, it's because we're trying to figure it out with our reasoning conscious mind and not with our faith. And that's, usually the quickest way back to our balance is to surrender to our heart. But if there are any questions, let me know. Just want to see what Shannon's written here. Hold on. She says that survival fear is so terrifying when I'm in the midst of it. I have the deepest respect for women who have the faith and trust in God to walk through from situations where this shadow is playing out heavily. Shannon says, I'd love it if you want to tune into me and see my prostitute. Okay, let's have a little look, my darling. So, you know, there's nothing I'm going to say to you that will shock you, my darling. And so much of what you know to be true in your heart about who you are and your work in the world is prevented from coming into fruition because of that deep fear that God will let you down and you have been abandoned by God. And so to even think about the idea of faith and faithlessness is there's a deep kind of trauma or sadness there. And I would just ask you to sit with the idea that, you know, let go of what you think should be happening in your life and how it should look. Because the moment you surrender your ideas, that is when God can enter the situation. And this situation is your life globally, but certainly the way that you can be of service to others. And to really just stop needing things to look any kind of way. You cannot be abandoned. You cannot be abandoned. It's just absolutely about going beyond the level of the dream and recognizing that you know, you are asleep in God's arms, dreaming of exile but perfectly capable of awakening. And that is the next phase for you now, is that the suffering story is ready to be let go of. And there's a fear of a loss of identity if you let go of that, of what has brought you to this point in your life, and truly forgive yourself and everyone else. But that is where it's at, my darling, and that is faith. And to not need anything to change, and that's, you know, to live in that space is the deepest faith. What if I say yes to God and nothing changes? Well, can your faith endure that? And that's really your biggest terror. But unless you really get on board with saying yes to God, you're never going to know how things will play out. And that's where it's at, my darling. And I know you understand, and I know you've got the capacity. It's time. It's more than time. Okay, let me just press this button so I can see Alonka's comment. I feel that I'm struggling with the prostitute archetype in various areas of my life at the moment. I'd love some guidance in this area. Okay. Oh, my darling, it's kind of make or break time for you. It's like, really, you know, what happens when you try to hold on to the cliff edge whilst jumping off at the same time? Like, you're holding on to the cliff edge and you're trying to jump off at the same time. Nothing happens, right? You just end up probably injuring yourself and scraping your knees and lying down in the dirt and feeling very sorry for yourself. And I think it's a very powerful moment for you to recognize that you can't say yes to God and hold on to the known. Your willingness to let go now of the known is what is your greatest act of faith, is to say, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I am willing. And there's a beautiful control freak element in you. We all have it. It's not a judgment, but she is the one who is being invited to lay down her arms right now and to recognize that you can't control everything. You don't know how it's all going to work out, but the risk of not jumping now is greater than the risk of staying on in the known. And you're so ready, my darling. Sandy, any guidance with what work I'm currently doing? Okay. Well, first of all, see it as holy work, please. It is sacred and holy because you're doing it. You know, the sacred leader is not what she does, it's how she does it. And to separate one thing into sacred and one thing into not sacred is the biggest mistake we can make, because where you are is your sacredness. The place where I stand is holy ground. And once again, there's a sense that you're using your reasoning conscious mind to try to figure this all out, and you're not letting God into the situation. And to really just get down on your knees now and surrender and say, I don't know how this is going to work out, God, but I'm willing. I'm going to let you lead. And to yearn, you know, to work with that symbol of, that I work with, the P, the problem resolved. You're trying to solve the problem from a human level. And this is a sacred and holy problem, which means there is no problem, but there must be a willingness to see it all as God-given. because that segregation is what is causing your suffering right now, is that some things are holy and some things are unholy, and you need to see it all as holy right now. And I really encourage you to see that where you are is your sacred service. Wherever you are, that is the service that you are being called to offer. And the judgment of what is or isn't of God now is the next step for you. And once you do that, everything will unravel. All the tension, all the tightness, all the suffering, all the difficulty will just melt away. And that's where the miracle can enter. When you start changing your perception of everything, you see what was once a challenge becomes, God can enter that situation and the miracle can enter it. A miracle is changing perception. And right now, that's absolutely what you're being called to do. And I know you got it. I know you're ready for that. You are the priestess. Wherever you are is holy, sacred work. All right. Anyone else want to have a share or ask me a question or ask the prostitute a question? Shannon says, spot on, and I'm ready. I've heard every possible story I can tell myself, and it's all BS. I'm ready to take a deep breath and let go of my ego's commentary and judgments of me and surrender to God. Woohoo, it's a good day. So that is it then. If no one else wants to hear from the prostitute, I am so grateful for you all being here. Day 15, this journey is just so rich and so textured, and it's such a beautiful thing to just spend time with these archetypes. Maybe every day you just invite one of the archetypes intuitively or randomly or by picking a card and let them commune with you, because these energy patterns are here to guide us all of the time. And I feel like I've learned so much from just spending more time with each of them. And, Prostitute is one of my favorites. I do love her. She's, because we all got her. We're all prostituting ourselves somewhere. We're so wedded to the idea that our survival is about physical safety in the world. And awakening really is the surrendering to the truth that there is nothing in the physical world that can harm us. Therefore, we don't need to be protected from it. It is a dream. And, you wouldn't tell a little child who was having a nightmare that their dream was real. You would say, hey, baby, wake up. You're completely safe. I'm here with you. And I am the one that is, protecting you, and nothing can harm you here. So I just think it's, so powerful for us to look at our own lives in that way. There is no protection in the dream because the dream can't harm you. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And that is faith. Are you willing to live from there? That's the prostitute's invitation. Hey, have a most glorious Friday. I can't believe it's Friday again. I'm really excited. And go forth and be joyful and let love rule. And I'll see you all on Monday for our second last day. Thank you for letting me show you my beautiful place as well. I'll give you another little flash, because I like you all knowing where I am when I share with you. So much love to you all.